It's day 5. Fighting continues and many cities are being shelled. Talks between Ukraine and Russia are underway on the Belarusian border. Ukrainian delegates want an immediate ceasefire and the withdrawal of Russia's troops from the country. The UN's refugee agency says more than 500,000 people have fled Ukraine. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has called for the European Union to grant his country immediate membership. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said Ukraine belongs in the EU and the bloc wants them to join. Well, the Times is reporting that more than 400 Russian mercenaries are operating in Kyiv with orders to assassinate the Ukrainian president and his government. So what I wanted to do this morning was take a look at the man who is defying the Russian advance and has been held around the world as a 21st century war hero. This is the story of Volodymyr Zelenskyy, aged just 44. He's a former comedian who played a president on TV before taking on the job for real, discovering in the worst possible way that politics is no laughing matter. Volodymyr Zelenskyy was born into the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, part of the wider Soviet Union, on January the 25th, 1978. He would turn 11 before the collapse of the USSR and the birth of an independent Ukraine in 1991. No one, least of all Zelenskyy himself, could imagine that he would one day become president. Never mind that he would lead his country in a bloody war with Mother Russia. He grew up in Kryvyi Rih, a town where some 250 miles south of Kyiv. The family lived in an apartment block with 800 flats, which was nicknamed the Anthill. His father, Alexander, has a reputation for being strict with students at the Economic Institute in the town, where he still works as a professor of computer science, where many students still know him. Despite studying law, as a teenager, Volodymyr began competing in team comedy competitions, a fixture of the Ukrainian comedy scene. His team, or troupe, was named 95 Kvartal, after a district of his hometown. They performed in the Major League of Comedy contest for 5 years before he broke into TV, starring in a number of shows. He even went on to win the first series of Dancing with the Stars, the Ukrainian version of Strictly, even performing one dance while wearing a blindfold.
He do the cards as a meditation, and though he plays, never suspect he doesn't play.
After his success on television, there followed a successful career in films.
Love is in the air, every sight and every sound.
Итак, обратите внимание, справа по курсу Бруклин. Район проживания многих представителей русской...
Volodymyr Zelenskyy starred in this, the romantic comedy Love in the Big City, set in New York, and its 2 sequels. There was also 8 First Dates, which spawned 2 follow-ups. Most of his films were in Russian rather than Ukrainian. Then in 2014, he was chosen as the voice of Paddington for the Ukrainian redubbing of the smash hit film Nicole Kidman and its sequel starring Hugh Grant. After that, in 2015, he starred in a new satirical show called Servant of the People. In the show, Volodymyr Zelenskyy played a history teacher plucked from obscurity after a video went viral showing him ranting against Ukrainian corruption. In the show, the teacher went on to be elected president on an anti-corruption platform. He ran for 3 or 4 years. And then on New Year's Eve in 2018, in an extraordinary case of life imitating art, Volodymyr Zelenskyy announced he would be running for president himself in the 2019 election. The name of his party, the same as the TV show, Servant of the People. His campaign was almost entirely virtual, addressing voters on social media and YouTube. He's gone on to use those skills in recent days, as we've all seen. He won the election in 2019 with 73% of the vote in the second round, defeating the incumbent Petro Poroshenko. Using his inauguration speech, he sought to strike a new tone for the still young country.
Дорогі українці,
Dear Ukrainians, he said, after my victory in this election, my 6-year-old son said, "Hey, Pop, I was watching TV and they said Zelensky is president. So that means I'm president too, right?" In the moment, it sounded like a child's joke, but later I understood that it was the truth because every one of us is president now, Zelensky said. Not only the 73% of Ukrainians who voted for me, all 100%. It's not mine. It's our common victory. And it's our common chance for which we take shared responsibility. It wasn't just me who took the oath. Each of us put our hand on the Constitution. And each of us swore loyalty to Ukraine. We are all Ukrainians. His early attempts to clear out the higher echelons of Ukrainian politics were often blocked by the parliament. But in July 2019, his Servants of the People party won the first ever majority in the Ukrainian parliament. Tackling the image of Ukraine as a corrupt country has been the focus of his presidency.
We fight with corruption. We fight with this. Fight each day. But please stop to say that Ukraine is a corrupted country. But because from now, it's not truth. We want to change this image.
It's Volodymyr Zelensky talking about trying to change the image of Ukraine as a corrupt country. One of his big domestic focuses has been on infrastructure. Across the country, building sites are surrounded with hoardings, declaring the great construction programme of the president of Ukraine. Internationally, before the Russian invasion at least, he was perhaps best known worldwide for being dragged into the political soap opera of Donald Trump's presidency. It was claimed that during a phone call, Trump tried to pressure Zelensky into opening up an investigation into Joe Biden's son, Hunter, by threatening to withhold $400 million in US military aid if he failed to do so. Hunter Biden had taken a seat on the board of a Ukrainian gas company. The threat and subsequent investigation eventually led to Trump's first impeachment.
And the witch hunt continues, but they're getting hit hard on this witch hunt because when they look at the information, it's a joke. Impeachment for that?
And that was Donald Trump. Well, in February 2020, the Senate acquitted Trump of the charge that he sought foreign influence from Ukraine in the US election. Although, of course, Donald Trump went on to lose the US election. Another key promise of Zelensky's presidential campaign was to end the war in the region of Donbass, where Russian separatists have been fighting to realign with Moscow. He faced heavy criticism from within Ukraine after seeking talks with Putin aimed at getting Russian troops to withdraw. Those talks ultimately failed. In the past 6 months, Putin has stepped up pressure, stationing tens of thousands of troops on the Ukrainian border, while creating false flag incidents to wrongly claim grounds for military action to retake Ukraine as part of Putin's deluded vision of reversing the collapse of the USSR in 1991.
The strategic and historical mistakes of Bolshevik heads in different periods of government building and economic and social policy led to our country's total collapse in 1991. The Soviet Union collapse is on their conscience.
Of all the madness emanating from Putin, perhaps the most insane was his claim to be trying to denazify Ukraine, a country which had in Zelensky its first Jewish president. His great-grandfather and other great-uncles were murdered in the Holocaust. It also had its first Jewish prime minister. Well, since the invasion began, Zelensky has been a constant presence on the streets of Kyiv and on social media.
Всім добрий вечір. Лідер фракції тут. Голова Офісу президента тут.
In this video, he appears with the most senior figures in the Ukrainian government, the leader of the faction or party, head of the president's administration, prime minister, and advisor to the head of the president's office. The president is here, he said. We are here. We are in Kyiv. We are defending Ukraine. Often appearing in an army green T-shirt, he has vowed to remain in the Ukrainian capital, despite admitting that Russia has him marked down as the #1 target, and his family is the #2 target. His wife, Alina, who he married in 2003, and their son and daughter are also still understood to still be in Ukraine. In a series of public appearances, President Zelensky has appealed to Ukrainians around the world to return and fight.
If you can destroy the occupiers, please do it. Everyone who can come back to Ukraine, please come back to defend Ukraine. Everyone who can defend Ukraine abroad, please do it.
His powerful speeches and messages have struck a chord around the world. Here's a veteran German translator overcome with emotion.
Russland ist auf dem Weg des Bösen. Russland muss ihre Stimme in UN verlieren. Ukrainer, wir wissen ganz genau, was wir verteidigen.
Слава кожному нашому солдату. Слава Україні.
Entschuldigung.
Well, world leaders have rallied to support him, with Boris Johnson seeking to be a strong ally to the Ukrainian president.
Shortly after 4 o'clock this morning, I spoke to President Zelensky of Ukraine as the first missiles struck his beautiful and innocent country and its brave people, and I assured him of the unwavering support of the United Kingdom.
That was Boris Johnson speaking last week. When he was first elected, Volodymyr Zelensky said he would serve for only one 5-year term. Since then, he's softened his stance, saying he would wait to see how Ukrainians felt about him. Now he is locked in a fight, not for his political life, but for the very survival of Ukraine itself. The election in 2024 is a very long way off indeed. That's the profile of Volodymyr Zelensky. Up next, we'll speak to two people who've followed his presidency and assess what his leadership in this conflict looks like and how it compares to leaders in the past. This is Matt Chorley on Times Radio.